on Jekyll Island last week. Golf jokes. And, yeah, I saw that and said I gotta have it. And boy, there's a lot of goodies in here, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. I'm gonna read the whole book today. And so anyway, there's a bunch of really good ones in here, and I always enjoy sharing a little bit of humor. And I'm gonna share a little golf joke about 3 rabbis. 3 very religious rabbis dressed in black with long beards are playing golf. A guy named Mulhaney wants to play, and this is the only threesome available. So he joins the rabbis and plays 18 holes. At the end of the game, his score is 104. The rabbis shoot 69, 70, and 71 respectively. If you don't understand golf, 69, 70, and 71 is better than 104, just in case you wondered. Mulhaney said to them, "How come you all play such good golf?" The lead rabbi says, "When you live a religious life and attend temple, you are rewarded." Mulhaney loves golf and figures he has nothing to lose, so he finds a temple close to his home. He attends twice a week, converses, joins, and lives a holy life. About a year later, he again plays golf with the same 3 rabbis. He shoots 104, and they shoot 69, 70, and 71 respectively. He says to them, "Okay, I joined the temple, live a religious life, and I'm still shooting lousy." "Well, what temple are you going to?" asks the lead rabbi. Mulhaney replies, "Beth Shalom." "Oh, no, you schmuck. That one's for tennis." Okay, there's more where that goes. So, if you all were coming here for golf, well, we're with it, but anyway. But anyway, there's a lot of things I want to pull together today. And, you know, when I wasn't here, obviously, last week, we had a fabulous RV adventure in Jekyll Island. Beautiful place if you've never been there, by the way. Really, like, just so natural. It's a beautiful, beautiful place. But anyway, before that, actually, we left right after the Sunday service, after Stephen Poplin's wonderful talk, about cycles, and I found that very interesting. But I also had the opportunity a couple days prior to have a private regression with Stephen. Did anyone else in here have a private regression with him? And Mary did. Well, and who made it to the group regression? And it was, so he really was wonderful. I do think, for me, I'd had many group regressions, but I'd never had a private one. So it was amazing. And I don't really see myself as a person who has had any experiences, with, like some people, it's amazing what they come up with. And I'm like, really? How'd you do that? But I did have a little bit of that with my one-on-one with them. And what happened was we talked a little bit and beforehand, and it was, good conversation. And basically, I was supposed to fill out a questionnaire and what were my deep-seated questions for the universe, and what is it I'd like to know, and so on and so forth. And what happened was we went into this regression, and all of a sudden, 2 people that I had wanted to connect with, one of which was my friend Ma Jaya, who was a Hindu woman. That's a whole other story, we'll just leave it at that. A Hindu woman who had an ashram that's still existing. She passed away a couple of years ago, called Kashi Ashram in Florida. We were very good friends, and I remember going to her many times, and you would sit at her feet, and she would gaze into your eyes, and she would take on all of your darkness. She would just suck it out of you, and you could see her face change. Ellen will attest to that. It was pretty amazing. Well, she did that in this regression to me. I was like, wow, this is awesome. And then the woman who ordained Ellen and I, Barbara Henshaw, she is also with Ma in spirit. She was in and out, and she was one of the founders of Alliance of Divine Love Ministry. And those two were like right there with me. They were sort of like standing in the background, just sort of cheering me on through this whole thing. It was pretty amazing. Well, anyway, I could tell you the whole regression, but it took 2.5 hours, so I won't do that. But as it was, fast forwarding, he had asked me, well, look at yourself, where are you? And I was at a river, and he says, well, what do you look like? And I saw myself as a Native American with a white headdress and, the typical Native
Skin.
Regalia, the skin, the clothing, the skins and everything. And I was like, wow, that's cool. And then there was a whole story. My entire tribe, I was the chief, my entire tribe was killed. And I was just looking back at the site and just mourning, and went into solitude for a couple of months until I ascended. I saw myself ascend. It was really amazing. And when I ascended, I ended up right back, it was like party time with the tribe, and everyone's like, yeah, we're waiting for you. And it was like no grief, no sadness, none of that whatsoever. And it was beautiful. And I come to find out, he said, well, what was your name? And I said, Red Wolf. Now, where that came from, no freaking idea. I mean, I was like, Red Wolf, really? So he said, so I came home that night. Of course, I have to get on Wikipedia and do a little research. Who's Red Wolf? Well, actually, Red Wolf was Chief Washaki. And Washaki was out in Yellowstone area in Wyoming, and had same time frame. I looked at the pictures. He was actually the same exact face I saw, the same headdress, same clothing, everything. I was like, oh my gosh. And it turned out that there were many similar scenarios in his life to what I saw in that regression. I was like, oh my God. It was really, really cool. So anyway, I fast forward and I'm like, okay, well, the big message is, and I think we all know this, and I'm not just making this about the Namaste Center, I am and I'm not, but I see that so many people you meet in this area have come home. They feel like they've come here because they're called to be here in Western North Carolina. From all over. You meet, are there any natives in here? All right, we got one.
From North Carolina?
Yeah, or from this area. Even from this area. So you're a native, Suzanne? Cool. So there's not many people who were born here, though. Most people came here. And it's kind of interesting because in our community here at Namaste, the connection is different than any I had ever experienced anywhere else spiritually. It's just the closeness and the acceptance and the unconditional support that is given and received here is beautiful. And I realize, this is our tribe. We've come back, we've made it back here some way or another, and here we are. And I think that a lot of spiritual communities, like I said, this is not just Namaste. I think that these little groups are coming together everywhere, all over this area. And so it's really a cool thing. And one thing that came to my awareness was, for most, I think all of y'all know that my past life was a golfer. I was a golf pro. And hard to believe, it's like weird. But anyway, it's something I can't relate to at all, which is what's so interesting. But I will say for a good 35 years of my life at least, 1/3 of my life was spent on the golf course. No lie. I mean, and I'm talking 10 degrees to 110 degrees. I was out there on the golf course. I just loved it, and I was in nature all the time. And then I have also, although I'm still a pretty nature-oriented person, I'm still missing that. So I've really been aware that my healing comes from being in nature. And so fortunately, the trip to Jekyll Island enabled us to be, in a beautiful wooded, those old oaks, those live oaks with the moss hanging down. And it was, lots of walks and lots of bike rides and the ocean. And it was really a healing time. And it was a beautiful place to be for this. And nature is so important. Yesterday, being outside, you know, just seeing people have so much fun, even though it was muddy, and believe me, it was yucky in many respects, but it was still fun, you know. And we're actually, believe it or not, this Wednesday, 10 a.m., we're going to be closing on the property. Yeah. So there you go. In 28 years now, but but we're so excited about it. So Mary and Ellen and I are going to go to the attorney's office and do the deed, and then we're going to have a little bit of a blessing on the land, and then we want to have a fire ceremony. There's a beautiful fire pit over at Highland Lake, so we'll pick a date and let you know about that as soon as possible. But I think that, you know, we've all come back here to, you know, as a tribe, you know, and there's no mistake in each and every person being here. I look around the room, and it's like soul family, truly soul family, and it's amazing. Well, another message, well, before I go there, we've got such an awesome piece of land, and that land is so sacred over at Highland Lake. And this building is going to be so energetically charged that you're going to just walk in there and just be really blown away in a good way by the energy. It's all being designed, you know, to just really create a high vibration. And so we're going to have beautiful water features and land, and it's just awesome. So we'll have that opportunity to hike around Highland Lake and be in the lake together and all sorts of things in our bikinis and Speedos, right? But anyway, and so I am so looking forward to that. Well, one thing that we did on the trip too was, you know, when you're in an RV, I love it. It's just so. I slept one day till noon. Till noon. Yay. I was shocked. I was because what happens is you can pull those shades down and it's pitch black in that thing. You don't know if it's midnight or noon. You really don't. And so I wake up and I'm like, I don't know what time it is. It says 5 after 12. And I'm like, really? So I guess I needed it. But anyway, we listened to lots of beautiful music, and we watched a couple of videos. And one of the videos we watched was Wayne Dyer, and I think it's a free thing to watch. It's called The Shift. Has anyone seen it? And it's kind of a hokey thing, kind of the way they've set up the storyline. But this was before, probably a year before he died, that they made this video. But it was really had a powerful message. And he talked about, you know, a point in your life. For him, he was talking about you just have this shift, you know, something is just, there's that voice that says, you know, you're just not loving the way things are. Something just ain't right, and you don't know what it is, but you know that there's more happening. And I had a big shift. I think my first major shift that I was aware of was when I was in my early 20s, and although I had accomplished everything I'd set out to accomplish, and those were some fairly big things. It was like, okay, well, this is cool, but you know, is this it? I mean, here I did this, and this, and this is it. So I realized that's what set me on my spiritual quest at a deeper level. It's like, no, there's more to this game of life than just accomplishing goals. So I ended up searching and studying all philosophies and religions and all sorts of things. So it really prompted me. And it was because I knew something wasn't exactly right. Didn't know what it was. I knew that there was more out there. Well, and boy is there. And I'm finding that every day. I also find that the more I learn, the less I know. I don't claim to know anything anymore. I used to be somewhat of an expert on certain things. Not so much anymore, because I really, according to the Course in Miracles, it says I don't know what anything, including this, is for. I don't know what anything is for. And to just be open in that question and being willing to receive guidance is a really wonderful place to be. Well, needless to say, I think when we have this shift in our lives, and I know that everyone in here has had that shift at, at some point, and I think we continue to go there. But our priorities certainly change. What those goals and those priorities that I had in the past seem so meaningless now. They just don't hold any meaning. Interest change. There's where we may have been interested in this type of vacation, now this type of vacation is more fun. Or, playing golf or not playing golf. It doesn't necessarily matter, but I think our interests do change. And of course, if I would have never seen myself 10 years ago at a fairy festival and having a good time. I would have thought these are the biggest bunch of crackpots I've ever seen in my life. And but now it's like rock on. I mean, these people were having a blast, and these kids were so cute. And there was a parade that went by, and they had this dragon and drums, and I'm like, oh, so I just chased that thing right down, and it was just so cute and sweet. But that certainly was an interest that changed. I didn't think last week I would have enjoyed the festival, actually, to be honest. So I was surprised. And of course our friends change. I've got wonderful friends from my past, but our relationship has shifted, and not in a negative way. It's just shifted, and my friends have changed hugely, and that's a good thing. And of course, I believe that the core of this with the shift, that spirituality and God come first in our life above all else. There's nothing really has meaning unless spirit's behind it, and it always goes back to that: seek ye first the kingdom of God, and everything else will be bestowed upon us. And that's the truth. If we seek that first, we have nothing to worry about, because spirit has us covered. So with these priorities changing, I had a lot of time to reflect on what I wanted to shift. I mean, I'm always paying attention and seeing where things are working and not working. And I have a tendency to, and I think I've shared this with you before, the last thing somebody 20 years ago would have said is that I'm a type A personality. And now people are like, you are such a type A. I'm like, wow, you didn't know me 20, 30 years ago. I was just like so laid back. I mean, even though I was motivated in golf and so forth and responsible, I was not what you would call a type A. And I'm not saying that that's a good thing. I'm like, wow, I realize I get so driven sometimes, and then I get stressed, and you got the rest of the story. You probably witnessed it. But anyway, I do recognize these patterns, because it's all about patterns and cycles and things. And when these cycles come up, we have to recognize it. What are the patterns that keep recurring? And of course, I recognize the one, just bulldozing through life and like, okay, that's not working for me, and so on and so forth. So what I've recognized is decluttering is huge, and of course the tag sale has given a great opportunity to get rid of all sorts of things that, I really want to live by this. And you watch that show like Tiny Houses on TV, and these people move from 3,000 square foot homes to 280 feet, and they're like never been happier, and they're like, oh, now I don't have to worry about all this stuff, and I can do what I really want to do in life. And there's a part of that to me that's very appealing. I don't think I could do the tiny house thing, but I do recognize that a lot of times we accumulate stuff, and with that stuff takes a lot of energy. You got to clean it, you got to take care of it, and so it's about that awareness of what do I surround myself with. If it makes me feel really good, keep it. But if it's just like it's okay, or really don't love this, let it go, let it go. The great opportunity, it's a pitch for the tag sale, so you can just go look. So just dump it off here this week, we'll be happy to take it. So decluttering is huge. One thing that I realized is, and this is one of my first tasks this week, is I'm going to get a new phone for the center. I'm not going to, I've had the same cell number since cell phones came out, so over 20 years. And now it's attached to the center, and I'm like, this is insane. So the center will have a number changed, and and I'm gonna have someone else answer it. So there you go. So I learned that one, and I really want to focus on, I realized that our schedule here at the center had gotten so full. We have a full schedule of activities, and I love having different people offer things here, and I still want to do that. But a lot of that, with each endeavor, takes a lot of energy. So what's consistent now, what's on the schedule is wonderful. Everyone's really responsible and taking charge of their classes, so that's good. But as far as any big events, until we get the building underway and all that, I really want to scale back a little bit. Because I want the focus to be on the tribe and on the community and on us building, relationship, really getting to know each other at a deeper level. So that's, we're going to scale back that schedule a little bit. Well, and to recognize too with this shift, all things do work together for good, truly. A couple of examples. I shared, I think the last time I talked, my computer crashed. I lost everything. Every talk from 5 years, all my pictures, and I'm into pictures, and it was kind of like, okay, all gone, nowhere to be found. It's like out in the universe. But I could spend thousands of dollars and try to have someone save it, and I said, no, it's not worth it. But that was a message in letting go, really starting fresh, not holding on to those old things. And wouldn't you know it, I walk in Wednesday morning, see Jerry, and she goes, the computer's not working. And I'm like, no way. So the computer here wasn't working. So we called the computer repair fella, and he was awesome. He came in, and this guy's a character. And he was just like, he just was an expert. I'll give you his number if you need someone. He's great. But then all of a sudden, he did us a great favor, gave us some all the Microsoft, Word and PowerPoint, and I've uploaded that in here, and we're like, cool. So when he left, we were like, we're like, this is the greatest thing that's ever happened, because this computer's been a little weird. So then all of a sudden we lost one of the programs. We're like, not such a great guy. No, but anyway, the good news is Jerry resolved that issue this morning, and so that was a great thing. But so the point is that all worked together. Although it seemed like a disaster that the computer wasn't working, we got way more out of it from it being broken, and it's working better than ever. So go. Now, a few weeks ago, I was looking at my schedule, and I really this has been one of the hardest things I've had to do, and that is for the past 5 years at least, I've had the Namaste radio show. And I love doing it, but it seems like the scheduling has not been easy for me for that. It just seems like when I'm ready, I'm not able to do it, and the station's not ready or whatever. And there's been a few little holdups, but I've loved it. And so then I said, Terry, it's just too hard for me to coordinate this. He goes, I got a great idea. This handheld recorder, it's foolproof. Now you know who the fool is. But anyway, so he showed me how to use it, and there's no way you can lose a file. Once you do this, there's no way. Yes, there is. And, so 3 shows. After the third loss of a show, I was like, forget it. I was ready to throw this thing across the room. I was just like, no. But because I couldn't figure it out. So I realized, okay, that's a sign, time to let that go temporarily. So I'm scaling back on that for the time being. I'll do one more show and then be done with it. So I think that life is really all about reorganizing, recognizing patterns. I don't think it ever stops. It's about evaluating and assessing what's working, what's not working, constantly shifting, constantly being aware. And there's so many, great things that can come of it. It's all things are working together for good. And, one of the blessings that we had in Jekyll Island was we got to sprinkle the ashes of Ron Prickett, who passed away. I know a lot of you know him, a lot knew him, a lot of you don't. but he was a terrific man, and he used to live in Jekyll Island, and so we had that honor to do that while we were down there. And that really felt good to be able to share that experience. And Lori, his partner, she was so grateful that we were able to do that. And so, you know, another thing that works for good. And what a coinkydink, you know. I told her, yeah, we're going to Jekyll Island, and she had called me and said, well, we're going to go sprinkle the ashes in Virginia. Would you like to go? I said, I'd love to. When? It was that week. I said, but we're going to be in Jekyll Island. She says, well, Ron lived there. And I said, well, we'll take some of Ron down there, and there you have it. So that was, you know, I just love the way life works. So anyway, I want to just close with this. This is one of Ellen's favorite books, is called Of Monkeys and Dragons. Has anyone read that? It's really a wonderful book, especially if someone's dealing with a physical condition. This woman who, what's her name? Michelle O'Donnell. She is a nun, right? Was she a nun? Very religious person. Anyway, really about that we have the power of God within us can overcome anything. And she's very well written, very inspirational, and very like, yes, I can beat this. You know, whatever it is that seems to be the obstacle in my life, I can handle it if I tap into truth. And I had this sent to me this past week, and it's a quote from her. She sends out weekly quotes, and it says, everything that we face that is out of order, confused, or dark gives us a choice. We either believe in the nature of God, or we believe in what we are seeing. I know God, and what I know about God makes this not a true power. I will not dishonor God by accepting the reality of this situation. I know God is in perfect order, maintains the harmony of his creations, and is an unchangeable fact throughout eternity. When you honor God with this kind of prayer and determination and understanding, you change the picture. It reinforces the reality of what you know to be true, and more of the nature of God is allowed to be expressed through your own soul. He is, in fact, the only power that is. It starts with you and God alone. Every morning, open your heart to receive all that God is, and pray to remain receptive. And I really am getting that. Put God first. Whatever we do, if we put Spirit first, there is nothing that can harm us, because who we are is bigger than anything that seems to be happening. Be it an illness, a condition, a relationship issue, whatever it is, God's bigger than that. We just have to be willing to receive and be open to that. And the closing statement here from the Course in Miracles, the light has come, I have forgiven the world. Should you be tempted, say to anyone who seems to pull you back into darkness, the light has come, I have forgiven you. We dedicate this day to the serenity in which God would have you be. Keep it in your awareness of yourself and see it everywhere today as we celebrate the beginning of new vision and the sight of the real world, which has come to replace the unforgiven world you thought was real. So, the light has come, I have forgiven the world, and if we do that, we cannot lose. And I'm so happy you guys are part of my tribe, and we're going to have a lot of fun. Namaste. Namaste.